program. We are right here with Yoruba Referendum Committee. And remember, the topic remains through federalism, the journey so far. Of course, there will be subtitles, which we'll always find when this is posted on YouTube. And please do help us to share it on your platforms, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or other social media platforms. So let me welcome Alagba Femi to the program today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for always having me on the program. Thank you.
You are welcome, sir.
Yeah.
So we're just going to kick off from where we ended last week's program. And the question then was if the Orire abduction and the pupils and the teachers that are currently in the hands of the terrorists, because I don't think if we say kidnappers, I don't think that's actually the right adjective or so that we should give them. They are terrorists. That whether in your own view, if you see an end in sight.
Well, I will, of course, we all hope that there will be a happy ending, which means the release of the captives without any medical condition or any serious medical condition. And that's what we all hope for. Now, since we don't know exactly what the government is doing or how the government is approaching it, except, the employment of forest guards and the orders given to the Inspector General of Police to flush them out, which are not necessary. But we want to believe that the governor of Oyo State and the federal government are doing something, militarily. But again, it brings us back to the question of who should be in control of, what this whole terrorism and security or insecurity is all about. That ab initio, the security of the people should be the responsibility of the people in the environment, and the government will just be the facilitator. So the governor of Oyo State or the government of Oyo State should simply be the facilitator for the development of security in Oyo State, not the federal government, which we have now. And then, because this thing has happened, even though it had been said over and over that these terrorists are moving around the country, they are going this, and nobody seems to be paying serious attention to it. So, but now that it has happened, the consequences of what happened will be how the government approaches it. So some are saying, okay, they should pay ransom, they should do this and do that. If they have to pay ransom to get them out in good health, that should not be a problem if they can do that, because we have to get them out. Now, the question is not about whether you should pay ransom to kidnappers or not, or terrorists or not. The consequences of not dealing with terrorism is paying ransom. So if, for this case, they want to pay ransom to get them out, then they have to follow it up simultaneously with new security architecture, so that it won't happen again. And if it happens again, there will already be a mechanism for dealing with it. Even in more complex situations, like the Hamas abduction and killing of Jews in Israel on October 7, 2023, and which they went to war about, they still found time within that circumstance to negotiate release. I'm not saying they paid ransom or not, but they released some prisoners and got their own prisoners. So all those things can happen. But in our own case, we can't just make a black and white distinction and say, no, we are not going to pay ransom, because the terrorists can just kill them. And that's why I mentioned the word consequence. What happened in Orire is the consequence of our not being in charge of our own security, the consequence of the architecture of the Nigerian states, which has taken away our capacity to organize our own security. So it's unfortunate that the abductees will be the victims in this case, but I want us to look more into if the government has to pay ransom, let them pay ransom and get them out. That is the consequence of our lackadaisical attitude to the question of restructuring we have been talking about. So we have to live with that consequence. Beyond that, and immediately while they are pursuing that, they should now. I have said it before. We have said it before. The moment the terrorists know that there is a new political architecture in town, that will curb them, regardless of where they come from. Because right now, they are dealing with a government that rehabilitates them. They are dealing with a government that wants them to repent. They are dealing with governors and governments that hold peace meetings with them when they are fully armed. So they know that the current government, the current architecture of states will be easy to deal with. The moment they know that it has changed, that will change their own consciousness and that will embolden us. And that is what we should be asking now. And that's why I said, well, for their safety, if they want to pay ransom, let them pay the ransom and get them out of the place. But along with the ransom, there must be a new security architecture, not in terms of employing more soldiers or more soldiers, or a new political architecture that will really empower the people and send a message to the terrorists wherever they are that if you mess around with Yoruba people, let me use Yoruba for example,
Right.
if you mess around with Yoruba people, they won't need any permission from Abuja to deal with you. And that's the bottom line. So that must go pari passu. All these things could have been done without the Orire experience.
Yeah.
But like I said, it has happened, and we just have to deal with the consequences.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Let's move on. You've touched a bit on what I'm bringing up as the next question, and this has to do with the state police. It's going to be in two parts, but I'll get the first question in. I know that the state police is, the way it's being proposed or pushed now is not what the Yoruba Referendum Committee is looking for.
No.
Yoruba Referendum Committee believes that if the Yoruba controls their own region, they will be able to set up their own security architecture by their own terms. And the powers, the total power, whether for the administration or system acquisition and type of security gadgets and resources, that decision will be made by the Yoruba people. And the same will be for if it's the Igbo people or the Gala people or or the Hausa people in the north. However, just like you've mentioned about the Orire one, that it's happened already. If it's not happened, then we can be saying that, oh, this is what could be done to prevent it. So, but we are not yet there where each nationality is controlling its own region. So this is where we are now. Do you see the state police, even in the short term, as being a sort of a solution, even in the short term?
No. You know why I smiled?
Yeah.
You see, the most important issue in the security question is terrorism. we all agree, whether you call it banditry or you call it terrorism or farmers, herders clash or kidnapping, it is terrorism. But you know what? The state police that they are running around with puts terrorism in the hands of the federal police, not even in the hands of the state police. So that's why I laughed. It's a joke, to be serious. It's not a mark of disrespect to anybody, but it's a joke because the central issue tó kàn wá gan-an lára, you put it in the hands of the federal police, and now you say you have state police. What kind of state police is that? Ṣé domestic violence la mama? I mean, sorry, I just get
They
carried
said
away.
local crimes, that the
Local
state police
crimes
will deal with the
and
local
stuff like that,
crimes.
which is already happening anyway. I mean, people agitated for state police because they want to control the spread of terrorism, essentially. That is what the whole thing is all about. You now put that terrorism in the hands of the federal police, and you start talking about having state police commission, having state police this, having state police that. That's not what we need. That's why I called it a joke. And we are alerting people to see it as a joke. Otherwise, let's say this Orire thing now, for example. Okay, they capture them. Let's say they have state and federal police. So they capture them and then they put them in the hands of the federal police. And the federal police will try them in the federal court and they will call them repentant and release them back into society. So what's the meaning of that? So what we are saying is that if, the usual saying is that the security of lives and property is the first responsibility of the government. No, it is the responsibility of the people. What the government does is to facilitate the empowerment of the people to take charge of their own security. So it is not a question of if a government exists, it is because the people exist in that environment.
Yes.
So therefore, that means the people must be empowered to be able to defend themselves. So if a government exists and takes away your power to defend yourself, and then claims the first responsibility of the government is security and property and life, what kind of security is that? So that's why initially I said, it has happened. We have to deal with the consequences, but we will be foolish, suicidal, and stupid if we don't right now start taking charge of that security and then say, okay, and we have state police now, maybe next amendment, they will correct it. And then some things will be happening. They will be putting them in charge of the federal police. So the issues are clear. The issues are clear right now, and we don't need to sugarcoat anything. We just need to tell it as it is, because it is there in black and white that terrorism, in fact, that was the first item. That's the first item on the responsibilities of the first federal police, terrorism, which is direct. So that's why when I said the terrorists know who they are dealing with. So you put it under federal police, they know that the federal is not going to do anything as it has not been doing. It will embolden them. So that means we should now redouble our efforts to ensure that we take that power back. And we are saying we are taking that power back in a legal, legitimate, and valid way through the referendum. So if the government now says, you can't have your referendum because it is this and this and this, then you are telling us we can't even defend ourselves. So that will be a different battle. But we have to draw the line. We have to draw the line, and we should not be shy about it. So the state police stuff is what Yoruba will call Shagbeluju. Just to, it's a joke.
Some people believe that if there's a state police, that since they will have other resources, obviously they will recruit more people for the states, that probably that will free more resources for the federal to operate. That those that are dealing with the federal will be able to concentrate on federal duties in terms of security, while the new recruit from the state will deal with the local crime. Do you find any balance in that?
That's not the point. There's no balance. Okay, you free some people from the state to the federal, right? And then you create employment and do that. But the crime that is committed will be handled by the federal, not by you. So of what value is your employment if you cannot address the crime in your locality? I'm not talking about general crimes now. I'm talking about the fundamental crime, because it is terrorism that is the major issue in Nigeria, not even only in Yoruba land. It is terrorists that drive away the Obas from their palaces. It is terrorists that, not just ordinary crime, ordinary criminals. So that is the major issue. So if you say because they will employ more people and free resources and all that, what are they going to use the resources for when the major crime is not even within your reach? So unless they can reverse it and put terrorism in the state of the hands of the states, then we can start saying, okay, maybe that's a first step, or that's not a nice. But as it is, the simple fact that terrorism is in the hands of the federal police makes it a complete no. I mean, that may be too harsh, but that's the reality. That's the reality we face. And these types of terrorism is also a political crime, like we have been saying, and it is obvious to everybody. Okay, look at it this way. When they abducted those people, when the Orire incident happened and stuff like that, this guy came to Ibadan, Shey Gumi, or what's his name?
Gumi, yes.
Yes, came to Ibadan to start talking some rubbish. Before? Yes. Now, we know who he is. Whether he is sponsoring terrorists or not is even beside the point. But this guy had been in the forefront of Islamization of Nigeria. Ogbomoso, that the Orire thing happened. We had an imam, the previous imam of Ogbomoso, who was fighting the present Oba, who is a Christian, and who wanted to, that imam wanted to institute his own version of Islamic governance. The guy, the issue was that there was an agreement between the imam and the previous Oba, who was a Muslim, to limit the powers of the imam. So when this Christian became the Oba now, the imam now said that agreement will not suffice, and he has to do this and do that, and started creating problems. Okay, so this terrorist activity happened in that area. I'm not saying he is involved or Gumi is involved, but immediately it happened, Gumi came, they started talking about Islam this and Islam that, as Islam that. So now you put that crime under a federal police who has not deemed it fit to do anything with Gumi all along. Now, do you think that if terrorism is under state police in Oyo State, for example, and such a thing happened, do you think Gumi will be able to visit Oyo State and start talking rubbish?
Not at all.
No. We just use that to illustrate the dangers behind this thing, so that we don't get carried away by sloganeering. We have state police. Governors will not do that. Governors will appoint that. They will have state electoral police commission, and they will have this kind of. That's not what the problem is. So no. I don't know. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's taken. Your position is that if the right thing is still not done, if the federal that is dealing with the terrorism now, and we're getting reports of some of them being arrested, handed over to the police, and then they find them back in the community, that what is going to change if it's the same federal that is dealing with issues or security issues
Yes.
on terrorism, which
Yes.
is, I mean, whether, like you said, whether it's kidnapping, whether it's banditry or so, that it all falls under
That.
terrorism.
Yes.
Great. Now let's move on to the bill setting up the state police itself. Because for some of our people, things are quite very simple. However, Yoruba Referendum Committee has over time been talking about how some things have to get the blessing, if we can put it like that, the blessing or the permission of the North before it could happen in Nigeria.
Yes.
In terms of political representation, we have more representatives from the North than the South. And people, I mean, political analysts over time have also said it, that if a bill goes to the House, it will take a substantial part of the Northern representative to support it before it can scale through. Now we find ourselves with the state police bill, which obviously the National Assembly have voted on it, the president has sent it across, and the stage now is for it to go to the states. Getting to the states, two-thirds of the states have to sign it, to accept it before it becomes law, or it gets into the constitution and becomes part of our law.
Yeah.
So I want you to address the complexities in there in terms of the power, the political power that the North has over such bill scaling through, and what will make it different if the Yoruba Referendum Committee's proposal on the federalism that should be practiced in Nigeria, what will make it different from what we are having now?
Well, you see, the thing is this, there's no point in a law that is supposed to govern Oyo State, for example, being confirmed by the Kano State Assembly. It doesn't make any sense that we want a law in Oyo State to do this and this and that, but the legislature in Kano State has to approve it. Why? So when again, we don't need to go too far. Look at the tax bill. When the tax bill was enacted or started or whatever, the northern governors or northern states objected to it. And then they started arguing and doing this and doing that before their own version was passed, which is what we are using now. So when you have a country that is already tilted in favor of one, the tendency or the chances are that those people with the majority will try to impose their will. And that is what happens in any human organization. Bringing it down to what we are talking about, let us take Kwara and Kogi states, where you have Yoruba there. And the Yoruba Obas in Kwara and Kogi states have been victims of these terrorists. They have killed several Obas in that area. Okay, so you now take the police bill there to their assembly, where you have Yoruba and other non-Yoruba people there. The Yoruba essentially are the victims, right? So now, you now want them, that assembly, to decide for Oyo State, and you want Oyo State to decide for that place. So two things will happen. Either they compromise and say, okay, don't worry, let's just pass it and let it go, and the problem remains, or it creates further confusion. even if it is passed. So the fundamental issue is the whole essence of constitutional amendment itself. And we have said it before, all of our representatives in the National Assembly don't represent us. They represent their political parties, even though they are Yoruba people or from any nationality they come from. They represent their political parties. And it is what interests that political party that they will send. That is why you have this state police bill like it is, that the APC as a political party thinks that that's the best way to go. But the Yoruba people feel differently. Okay, well, whatever we might say about Sunday Igboho or anything like that, the guy immediately Ogbomoso started. The guy came out, set up his own security office, and said, okay, let's go and get them out, right? That is a Yoruba sentiment. Now, the political party sentiment is different. So what we are now saying is, let the Yoruba sentiment, I'm not promoting Sunday Igboho with this, so I'm just using him as an example. Whatever the Yoruba sentiment is, must dictate the laws that govern Yoruba land, regardless of party. And what we have now, it is the party recommendations that substitutes itself for the people. So that's why I said, in a sense, it is good that the police bill is happening, but it will be better if we now use that opportunity to now start saying, okay, what is the way out to get out of this thing once and for all, and not just running the same script every 4 years or every year. Or since when have we been talking about state police? Or people who've been demanding state police? So if not for the Ogbomoso thing, they will start rushing it. No, Shebi it's been on for a while. And when they now rush it, look at what they came up with. So it should be a wake-up call for Yoruba people. Not only for Yoruba people, but we are talking to Yoruba people now. For Yoruba people to take charge of their destiny. We are not against anybody contesting for any office anywhere. That's not the issue. The issue is we must be able to determine our destiny. And that is the purpose of that referendum. So if they now say the bill must go through all the 24 states and stuff like that, and you now go to the Sharia states in the north, who already have Sharia laws on their books, and they have a slight majority, 19 states in the north. Okay, if you don't even count the middle belt, you have the 12 states, right, in the north. So, and then they can manipulate themselves and make sure that the 24 states doesn't even, because when you take 12 out of 36, it comes out to 24. So they can easily manipulate one or two to make sure that you don't read that 24. Okay. 24, yeah. So now they have Sharia on their own laws. And you now go to them and say, look, you have to endorse this bill so that it can pass constitutional amendment. What do you think they will say? They will say, okay, this is a negotiation, right? Put Sharia in your own law, we will support you. And then you don't put Sharia in your own law, we won't support you. You see, that's what I'm saying. So that's why I said you can't be talking about security for your state and going to Kano State Assembly to endorse it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the earlier we rise up to realize that, the better for us.
Thank you very much, Alagbafemi Odedeyi. I think our time is running as well. We're almost there. If I get what you are saying is that our people should not take the state police as the end.
Yep.
We should still continue to clamor for the referendum, nationality referendum. And of course, we have the Yoruba referendum bill, yes, with the 6 Southwest Houses of Assembly. So it's been with them, and people need to continue to agitate and appeal, if it requires them to appeal to their representatives to pass that bill into law. Just as you mentioned, if the kidnappers or the terrorists know that there are changes to the political sort of system and permutation in the country, in which each nationality will have powers to arrange some couple of things for themselves, that might even be a sort of a solution to what we have. The Nigerian insecurity situation, in my own way, I used to say is like a body that has been stricken by cancer. Most surgeons or health professionals, they will isolate the part that is attacked already so that it won't affect the other people. So assuming, obviously we know terrorism is mostly in the north, that's where it started, and it sort of continued to sustain. If the other nationality areas are being controlled by the people of those areas, and they're able to hold their own boundaries without the terrorism affecting them, that will also give them the opportunity to give support to the areas that have been affected. Right. But the way the political system in Nigeria is now, or can we say constitutional circumstances,
yes,
is federal. So somebody that is doing something in the north will still claim that, well, we are Nigerians, we can live anywhere. We can walk inside any forest to anywhere. And what they are saying is true, because as a federal nation where it's being controlled from the top, then every Nigerian citizen is free to move around, which some of them are using, and not just only us. Alagbafemi, let's have your final words, especially in terms of whether it's the state or the federal engaging some other security organizations, especially the sort of one set up by Igboho. I think the OPC has one as well, and then we have the Tumpolo at the other hand, engaging them in fighting some of these insecurities.
That's also, yes. Oh, first one. Okay, what's the second one? Quickly. Is that the question?
Yes, the question is just just one, that the government engaging these security organizations in fighting insecurity in the country.
No, it's not even advisable, in the sense that government can also manipulate them, like we have seen. You know, Tompolo was engaged for pipeline security or something like that.
Pipeline security, yes.
And then OPC also wanted a piece of the action at that point. And at one point, they were arguing whether they deserve it or they don't deserve it, and blah, blah, blah. So it is not the business of the federal government to engage them.
Right.
It is the business of the federating units to determine the nature of its own security. So if there is a Yoruba federating unit now, by whatever name it's called,
right,
will devise its own security mechanism, which may, or even Igboho may not even arise, because Igboho arose because there is a vacuum.
Yes.
And then he tried to fill that vacuum. So if we have control over our security, such a vacuum will not exist. So we won't need, Igboho can join that kind of security. He can join the Yoruba security outfit too. I'm not saying he couldn't, but it won't become a personal or private affair. It becomes a collective affair. It becomes what we have decided. This is the kind of security we want, and these are the kind of people we want in there, and these are the kind of duties they will perform, and stuff like that. So, but as it is now, if the we have seen it several times. The government manipulating this, especially in the Niger Delta and all the rest of it. And then they start fighting among themselves. And then the terrorists will be going, where they are going. And because they are also looking at the government as the source of their funding. So the responsibility is on us to get our lives in our hands. That's the bottom line. And every day, everything is showing us the necessity for it, both in terms of the terrorists and in terms of the steps that the government is taking, which alienates the people from their own society and their own governance. So if you now the government now engages an Igboho, for example, and Tinubu spends 4 years more and leaves office, and then you have another president who doesn't like Igboho, then they start fighting Igboho, and everything will scatter. Yeah. So because of time, we can continue next because we have less than 1 minute left. So because of time, I think it shouldn't even, we Yoruba people should not even entertain it. What we should entertain is for us to have control over our society, which is what we call true federalism.
Thank you very much, Alagba Femi Odedeyi. So, viewers, what you are taking out today is that we should continue to clamor for the passage of the Yoruba referendum bill that is before the 6 Southwest Houses of Assembly. Yes,